Alright, let's dive into something that's been buzzing in the film world lately, the Locarno Pro Development Awards. Now, if you're like me, you might not be super familiar with this event, but trust me, it's a big deal for emerging filmmakers. What makes this year's awards particularly interesting is the winner, Yazz, a film about a teenager growing up in a UN compound in the Central African Republic. Personally, I think this premise is gold. It's not just another coming-of-age story. It's a coming-of-age story set in a world most of us have only seen in headlines. What many people don't realize is how rare it is to get an insider's perspective on life in a UN compound, let alone through the eyes of a teenager. This raises a deeper question. How often do we get to see stories like this, and why aren't there more of them? What really stands out to me is the jury's comment about his offering a unique and very personal perspective on a world we think we know, but rarely see from the inside. In my opinion, that's the magic of cinema. It takes us places we've never been and shows us things we've never considered. And let's be real, in today's globalized world, where we're constantly bombarded with news about conflict zones, it's easy to forget that real people, especially young people, are living their lives in these places. This film seems to humanize that experience in a way that's both intimate and universal. Now, let's talk about the awards themselves. Yazz didn't just win one prize, it snagged two major ones, the Nebel Studios Award and the Studio 13, the Valais Film Commission Award. If you take a step back and think about it, these aren't just trophies, they're lifelines for filmmakers. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars in studio time, equipment, and post-production services. For an independent film, especially one with international co-production partners, this kind of support can make or break the project. What this really suggests is that the industry is starting to recognize the value of diverse, globally relevant stories, and that's a trend I'm here for. But Yazz wasn't the only winner. Films like Cuore Matto and Les Orages Magnétiques also took home prizes, and these projects are just as compelling. Cuore Matto, a queer and feminist coming-of-age musical, sounds like the kind of film that could redefine what we think of as a musical. And Les Orages Magnétiques, which explores becoming a woman in a misogynistic environment, feels incredibly timely. One thing that immediately stands out is how these films are tackling big themes: identity, gender, power, but through very personal, character-driven stories. That's a detail I find fascinating, because it's a reminder that the most impactful stories are often the ones that feel the most human. Now, let's shift gears for a second and talk about the Heritage Restoration Contest. This is something I'm personally really passionate about, because it's not just about preserving films, it's about preserving history, culture, and perspectives that might otherwise be lost. This year's winner, Now Sommers Choose Encore ICI by Anne-Marie Miéville, is a perfect example. It's a 1997 film featuring Jean-Luc Godard in a rare on-screen role, and it's being restored for its 30th anniversary. What makes this really interesting is that it's not just a restoration, it's a rediscovery. The jury called it an essential work of Swiss cinema, and I think that's spot on. In a world where blockbuster franchises dominate the conversation, it's refreshing to see smaller, more introspective works getting their due. If you take a step back and think about it, the Locarno Pro Awards and the Heritage Restoration Contest are two sides of the same coin. One is about nurturing new voices, while the other is about honoring the voices of the past. Together, they're a reminder of why cinema matters. It's not just entertainment, it's a way of understanding the world, both as it is and as it was. So, here's my closing thought. As we celebrate these films and filmmakers, let's also think about the stories that still need to be told. What perspectives are missing? What voices aren't being heard? Cinema has the power to change the way we see the world, but only if we're willing to listen. And that, my friends, is what makes this all so exciting. What do you think? Which of these films are you most excited to see? Let me know in the comments below.